Disengaging. It's the next part of the content we're going to go over, and we have two ways of disengaging. Any ideas how do we disengage? I mean, if you've done rapier already, if you've done small sword, literally any sword type, we have two ways of disengaging. Ideas?
Over or under?
Over or under?
Below.
Exactly. Lovely. Perfect. Thank you, Matteo. And Vasco. And Ricardo. And virtually everyone that I just saw doing this. Exactly. So we have two ways of disengaging. Over and under. In Sabre, the best way to disengage to perform a cut is by going over. So if I want to do a cut 1, for example, I am on outside guard, I will disengage over my opponent's blade. I already have here leverage enough to cut at my opponent's head. Or even if I'm doing a cut 5, for example, I will disengage over to cut at the chest or to the belly. Okay? More things that I could do from here. Basically, I could still disengage under to do a cut, but it's best if you're doing like a rising cut. So if I want to do a cut 4, I will disengage under to perform a cut 4. Okay, so again, disengage under for a cut 4, disengage over if I'm doing a downwards cut, like 1 or 5. Okay, so everything clear so far, right? Okay, if I'm doing on the opposite side, so I'm disengaging on an outside guard, if I'm disengaging on an inside guard, the same principle applies. If I'm doing a downward cut like a cut 2, I will bring my sword up so that it can go over my opponent's blade, and from here I will do a cut 2 to the head, for example, a cut 2 to the arm, or even a cut 6 to whichever point I want. Okay, so far so good, right? So with another cut that we can do, of course, is also cut 3 to the wrist. Okay, but this would be disengage under the blade. All right, it kind of makes sense. So if you're doing a downwards cut, disengage above. Doing an upwards cut, disengage under. Another thing that we should be mindful of is that for cutting, it's pretty straightforward. If we are thrusting, it's best to disengage under. Why? If you're disengaging under, the area of the blade that you need to cover is your own. So you just need to bring it down and under. If you're going above, you need to, if I'm all the way down here, I need to bring it all the way up and then cut. So I'm already building up that momentum to then cut. But if I'm doing a thrust, going over and then thrusting, I lose a lot more time than if I'm just going under to thrust, okay, or under to thrust. And it doesn't really matter if I'm inside or outside. Okay, I will just disengage under to thrust, or under to thrust on the other side. Okay, make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we'll do some exercises. Any questions? Small correction that I've been seeing on some of you. So if my opponent is in guard, so first of all, regardless of the disengaging that I'm doing, I will want to keep my hand as, I was going to say, as static as possible, and just use my wrist to disengage. So if I go over, my wrist very much stays the same, and I will disengage to then cut. Okay, and remember to use the fingers while you're cutting. So if I disengage, I have the 3 fingers left to cut, and use those 3 fingers to cut. Okay. Another thing that I was seeing is when you're doing the disengage under. So the disengaging over, remember, use the fingers, like I said. So if on the outside, disengage, use the fingers to cut. If I'm on inside guard, same principle, disengage, use the 3 fingers to cut. Okay. If I'm disengaging under, outside guard, please. If I'm disengaging under, don't cock back the arm. This is not the goal. Okay? So I'm not here, bring it back, and then thrust. No, the goal is that I disengage by describing a small U or a small V or a small circle with my sword. Okay? And as tightly as possible, as if we were doing almost like a small sword disengage. So disengage under, and lunge, or if, you can actually do the same way, so you don't need to actually rotate, you can disengage under, thrust, But if you really want to as well, disengage under, thrust. Okay, so that you also start mechanizing the thrusts. If I do it on the inside guard, okay, disengage under, again by the small circle, so no point in cocking back. No, just disengage under in a small circle. If you want to keep a position, remember to rotate the hand. If you don't want to keep a position, just go ahead and thrust. All right, make sense? Remember, I can still make an upward cut from outside guard, but because Roworth says that it's usually best to do cut 3 and cut 4 by disengaging under, the only logical way that I can disengage under and still cut is if I do a cut 4. If I do a cut 3 by disengaging under, I need to disengage and then rotate and then cut, which too many extra steps, I'm going to waste too much time. So outside guard. So if I'm disengaging under, same principle of the 3 fingers still apply. Disengage, okay, and using the 3 fingers, cut. Okay, I'm just trying not to really cut you that hard. Okay, and the cut 4. Okay, if I'm doing a disengage on the other side, on the inside, again, the only logical way for me to cut under and still perform a cut 3 or a cut 4. A cut 4, again, too many steps. I disengage under, rotate, cut. No points, no need. On the inside guard, disengage under, 3 fingers are loose, cut to the wrist. Ideally to the wrist, but since her wrist is exposed, I'll cut to the forearm. All right, make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect.